Hey guys, and welcome to this Train Sim TV video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the SimRail 2021 Prologue. This is the second demo that has come out for SimRail 2021 and is an upcoming train simulator that's coming out probably in the next few months or so, I would expect. Now we're going to be taking a look at one of the included tutorial / scenarios that you get with this demo. You get two, and we're going to take a look at the coal train one. Now obviously on this menu here you've got quite a lot going on. I've got graphics and everything set up reasonably as I like them. Although obviously because it's a demo it's still very much speculative as to what changes may make in the future before release. So bear in mind that what you see is obviously not going to be the final product, but it's very positive is what I would say. Obviously I'm looking forward to looking at this menu. I'm looking forward to when we get the final release, because this dispatcher mode, and especially with some of the things they've shown, I think this all interlocks and everything, so I'm looking forward to dispatcher mode. The thing I'm looking forward to most is multiplayer, to be honest, because I've been wanting a multiplayer train simulator other than trains, which, you know, I don't play. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this does in multiplayer, because the actual train driving aspects of it are really good. Now we've got two routes available. Now you don't drive the full routes in these tutorials, you drive like a half hour sort of here and there. Now I'm not even going to try and pronounce, well, I will try and pronounce it, but the pronunciation is going to be totally to cock, so just, you know, pretend that I've not pronounced it, basically. So this is a 316 kilometre long railway line running from Warsaw to Katowice. The max speed on this line is 160 kilometres an hour. Now when the final game does come out, as far as I know, we're going to get that full 316 kilometre long route, which is, well, it's pretty epic really. I mean, it's something that we've never seen in TS really, certainly not with an included route that's included with the base game. Obviously we've seen such like the mergers and stuff on the train simulator, but we've not seen anything of that nature, so that is something I'm really looking forward to. But the one way I'm going to look at is this, the Katowice to Sedzau, whatever, route. Now the routes are both in Poland. The simulator is made by a Polish development team as far as I'm aware as well. It's going to be published by the guys at Playway. Now the guys that are making this are experienced in making train simulation software. As far as I know, they'll do commercial train simulators for, like, you know, training purposes and stuff like that. So the stuff you see is pretty top-notch simulation stuff, and you'll see it as we get in there. It's pretty good. So this is one of the main coal export lines from the Upper Silesia, that thing. The most industrialised part of Poland. Maximum speed on the routes varies from 30 km an hour to 120 km an hour. Now this starts at a colliery in one of these areas. I think it's down here at Statsheet is where we start. So we're going to start down in the colliery. Now the loco we get is a class E186. Now my knowledge of European rolling stock is horrific. I love looking at the, you know, European trains and stuff, but I've never really had the chance to go over and experience them. So to me this is really completely alien. My whole point of this is to try and show you guys what we're looking at with this route and with this game that's coming up, this simulator, and to see how sort of positive it's looking, because I think it is looking really positive. Now there's some negatives, there's a lot of positives though, especially when you consider that this is a demo, so I'm looking forward to showing you guys this. I'll just wait for it to load in. The guy will do some talking and there'll be a bit of a start of the tutorial. When he's talking I'll just let him talk, so I'll just be quiet for a minute or two.
Welcome to the Prologue of SimRail, the railway simulator. You are in the heart of Upper Silesia, located in the south of Poland, the most industrialized part of the country. The coal mined in this region has fed many power plants for decades, and the steel produced in the local steel mills was used as the building material for many facilities. In front of you, you can see a tracked locomotive with a freight train loaded with coal for one of the power plants in eastern Poland. You will lead it on a section from Staszic coal mine in Katowice to the Sosnowiec-Dańdówka station. Perform your task carefully and admire the industrial landscape. To enter the locomotive, approach it and click on the doors or press 1 on a keyboard. So immediately he's going to tell me to obviously get in the cab. Now I'm not going to do that straight away. I've already driven this scenario once, so I know it's not going to kick me out or anything before running late. So I'm going to take a good look around and look at some of the basics. So the first thing I'm going to look at is such as the track here. And I'm reasonably happy with that detail. I've seen on some of the pictures that the track seems to sort of really be offset from the ground, whereas here it's not such a problem. It's quite nice that. I think that's on par really with Train Sim World, to be honest. And what I'm going to be judging this against is when we first got Train Sim World. So when we first got the CSX version of the game, not how it is now, because it's 2 years, 3 years into development, even more, is it 4 now?
So, you know, looking at stuff such as the track there, I'm quite happy. There's a few like anti-aliasing things going on. Like, I'm not sure what's going on with all that flickering. Maybe that's me with settings that needs to change. And also, remember again, it's a demo, so you know it could all change. But I'm really loving how this is looking as a colliery. I've been from Yorkshire as well. Obviously, I won't say I'm a big fan of coal mining, but you know, it's something that I grew up looking at and whatnot. So to see such a huge sort of industrial area in a train simulator is fantastic. And my assumption is that we'll be able to use all these in the final simulation, and particularly to have something like this in a multiplayer event, I think will be absolutely epic. Now, looking up there, you've got the control tower. Now, that's actually got a little computer in it, so I'm not sure whether you're going to actually be able to use that when you use dispatcher mode and stuff. All this is obviously speculation, but it'd be good if you could. So this is very similar to Train Sim World. I'm currently just wandering around with my, you know, with the arrow keys and everything, and just walking about. Detail and everything, again, I know nothing about these locos really, so I cannot speak from an accuracy point of view. Hopefully somebody will do a video that can, or maybe they already have. You know, some of the texture is not amazing, but the actual looking at the detail on the bogies and everything, I think that's really nice. My FPS is lower than it was when I played the Root earlier, and that's just because I've got obviously my OBS running. The FPS is a little bit low, probably lower than TSW, but yeah, the detail and everything is really nice. It's looking good. So yeah, these huge hoppers here, and they're filled with coal. Because why? You know, obviously they're going to be because they're coming from coal mine. But anyway, let's get in the loco. Now you do see there's the trace in there. Look, I don't know if that's something I can fix in the settings. It's because I'm such a low FPS at the moment. It's kind of making it worse. So we walk up to the door, press 1 to get in the cab.
Press on your chair or use the E key to get up.
So we get up out of the seat. It's very similar to TSW. So we're going to shut
the battery and activate the driver's seat with a switch on the rear wall of the cabin. So, very similar to TSW, you get in the cab, you shut the door and all this. Now we've got to change the battery to turn that on. So we're going to click and hold with the mouse button and turn that to cabin activation. Or spacebar on the keyboard to deactivate the CA SHP security system. These systems will regularly check your alertness while driving. To sit on the driver's seat, press on it.
So the LZB system that just went off then, the guy that was saying, sounded like he was saying Chewbacca or whatever he was saying. That'll go off, I think it's every few seconds basically, and you just press spacebar to cancel that. I know Tom was basically unable to drive it because he couldn't work out what button to press, which means he wasn't paying attention at this part, which, well, there's no new there, let's be honest. But yeah, the cab and everything looks really nice. I'm going to go and just pause the video a second whilst I change some settings around because I'm not happy with it. So I've played around with settings a little bit there, so we'll see if that makes it a little bit better. The FPS does seem a little higher. Not massively, but it's enough to make it at least reasonably playable. Right, so let's get in the driver's seat.
Our vehicle is powered by electricity from overhead contact line system, so it's necessary to lift the pantograph.
Now I've turned down textures and stuff, so the textures are now at half quality, so just bear that in mind. The textures that you see on this dashboard are not the actual quality that you'll see. I can, of course, just put those back up to full so you can see them, what they would look like. So if I go back to full resolution, you can see obviously they're a lot better. I'll try and keep them on full resolution because I think it's better if they are. So with the pantograph, I've got to raise the pantograph. I have to hold it in the raised position whilst it makes contact and everything. So let's hold it forward. And now we're waiting for pantograph contact with the wire.
Now, close the quick circuit breaker.
Again, with a quick circuit breaker, we've got to close this, but we'll hold it until it's closed and made contact.
Wait for a quick circuit breaker to close, and also wait for the converter and compressor to start. The correct operation of these devices is necessary, for example, to survive the braking system of a train. Now, set the forward direction.
So we've got everything going, we've got the compressor started there, so you can hear that over obviously everything else. We've got to set the forward direction, so we've got to set the reverser to forward basically is what we're doing here. So press forward.
Move the brake lever to the drive position.
Now we've got to charge the brakes up on the train, so let's move the brakes to the forward to the drive position. Now, I'll explain about keybinds and stuff as we get into this, because keybinds and stuff are totally different to train sims. So let's move this with the mouse to do the driving position.
It may take a long time to loosen up the brakes. To speed this up, you can hold the lever in a filling position with an increased cross section.
So obviously now we've got to fill the brakes up, because obviously we want a pretty long sort of cold train here. You can see on the right hand side there, brake hose is obviously 81% and dropping. That needs to get to 0% before we can move. So I can click on this and change to a high flow charge. It loosens up the brakes a lot quicker. You can see that percentage now is dropping a lot quicker. So we'll be able to get the brakes off much faster. So they'll come off. Now I love the cab and the feel of it. I think it looks really nice. As you get further away in the distance, just while we're looking at this, you got a bit of a moire effect on the track there. You see, so it's changing. It's sort of like blurs a little bit for about 5 or 6 sleepers alongside where like Katina is. And then obviously the scenery in the background, the shadows and stuff sort of stop suddenly. You can see that there's 2D trees, and you can change the way that they render in and stuff, but it really affects performance. And my machine just can't cope with it. But obviously as you get a little bit further away, it suddenly drops and looks a lot worse. Whereas if I look, for instance, to my right, just leave that there for now. If I look to my right, I think that looks really nice. So if something can be done to improve how it looks going forwards without affecting the FPS quite as badly as it does at the moment, I think that'd be really good.
Now the train brake test will take place. The auditor will check if all cars have working brakes. Follow his instructions via radio.
41, 40, 18, brake.
So this is one thing I do love about SimRail so far, and this is the radio
Move the
system.
brake lever to the brake position.
So we're getting told to move the brake lever to the brake position, so let's do that. We're doing a brake test here is what we're doing. So we need to move the brakes to the brake position, which is increased brake force position. So hold them there for a second, just while we do this brake test.
41, 40, 18, on brake.
So now it's telling me to unbrake.
Move the brake lever to the drive position.
So we're letting the brakes out now, basically. One thing I love actually is that is actually my work document that's on there. That is accurate to what train we're trying to drive. Whether that will always be the case or not, I don't know, but that is certainly in this scenario is exactly what we're doing, which is a nice touch. But so far, sounds-wise and everything, I'm quite happy with how it sounds. I think it's good. I have no idea if it's accurate, but it sounds good.
Use the call button on your radio telephone to confirm the readiness to the train dispatcher.
So there'll be a couple of radio calls here. This will be basically us getting set to go, so let's get on with that.
Train 41 4018, Starship Coal Mine Dispatcher, radio check.
41, 40, 18, good radio. Ready for train data.
I have 25 cars, 2000 tons, length of 370 meters, one locomotive E186134, driver Stevenson, ready to depart.
Understood. My name is Ferran, readiness number is 27. Stand by for signal indication.
Press on your chair or use the E key to get up.
So we've already got the signal there. We're just going to use the E key to get up now.
Before we will be able to go, we need to release the parking brake. This button is placed just behind you on the rear wall of the cabin.
So let's get that parking brake released now.
Sit on the driver's seat, press on it.
So that's okay, it's getting back in the seat and get ready to go. We are essentially ready to go. Now the one thing I love about this, and it shouldn't really be something that's not, obviously it's not really very complicated, but
move the lever forward to apply power and go.
it's nice that if I open the window, we get the bird noise and ambient sound and stuff coming in. It's a small touch, but I really like how that's been done. You can hear stuff outside when you open the window and stuff. I think that's better than Train Sim World, because Train Sim World, I seem to remember you get all, at least when it started, you got all sorts of really buggy like noises coming through. So it's something I like there. The skies look pretty decent actually as well, to be fair, looking at them. Anyway, let's get ready to go here so we can get the brakes off. They're already off, so we can now move forward with some power. Now, the keybinds and everything, they're totally different to Train Sim. I think it's set up basically, continental style or Polish style. I'm not sure how it is, but it's not something that we're used to in terms of like WASD and stuff like that. It's obviously different. Once you get your head around it, I found it's actually really simple and I quite like it. It's just a case of learning new things. So for power to decrease and apply, it is the number pad. Everything's on the number pad basically, and it's plus to increase power. And you got different positions there. You got hold forward to take power, let go and it will maintain 28% power, which is what we're going to set at the minute. And I'll just change some of the speaker settings here so that the sound drops. Already you can hear it sounds reasonably good. I'm going to apply some more power. I'll get the horn a blow as well. Adequate. Nothing spectacular, but adequate. I think the sounds outside aren't any different really. So that's obviously something that could be worked on. Again, FPS is a little bit on the low side here. Or a lot on the low side. It's a little bit better in the cab. Again, it wasn't like this when I was playing it outside of streaming, but the Streamlabs software does take quite a lot of system resources. So that has to be beared in mind. It has to be beared in mind. Apply some more power, so I'm going to press plus on my number pad again. So we're coming out of Colliery now. So we got the, you see the red warning that came up at the top of the screen. That was the LZB system again, which I just had to press the button to cancel. The spacebar. So every time that appears, just press spacebar, cancel that. It's pretty easy to do. But again, that's that tower that I was talking about. So that's got some really nice looking detail up there. So I'm going to ease the power off here because we go down quite a steep slope. I just want to make sure that we've got enough. The way the game simulates physics and stuff to me seems really good, with gradients and everything like that. As we go down this hill, you can already see the speed is starting to gain. And these are just the key things that I'm looking for from the software. Does it simulate physics? If you go down a hill, how does it deal with it? And it's as you would expect in real life. As your loco goes to the top, you don't really see much. But as the rest of your train then pushes you down the hill, or you're going up a hill, it takes or gives speed as you would expect. So something I'm really impressed about. It's a very slow sort of run, this one at the start. It's you don't really get up to much speed. I mean, from a detail point of view, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's necessarily any better than TSW. I think it's, as I say, as a demo, it's pretty solid. I think the foliage could do with a little bit of work, but then also it's a case of I've got the system settings lowered somewhat as well. So you can increase the draw distance for the foliage. As you can see, it's popping in at the moment. You can increase that draw distance so it pops in later. Much like you can on TSW as well with changing various files. The engine file, the ini.dot file, whatever it is. But for me, it makes the performance pretty much unplayable. So that's something I think could do with some work, is certainly the performance. And I'm sure that is going to come in form of updates. Now, another point to make is the HUD. So we've got various HUDs going on here. Yeah, you can control all these on your F1 to F5 keys. So I press F1, we lose the stuff on the right hand side there. So you got the signal data, and above that you got our next objective. So our next objective is Stashit Podge. That's in 1.4 kilometers, and we're due to arrive there at 11:30. Obviously we're not going to do that because I was late off the yard. Then down on your right hand side you've got various other bits. You've got the power that we're currently applying, so that's 46% power that I'm currently applying. You've got your amps, and then you've got your brake. So basically how much you're braking. We're not braking at all at the moment, so that's 0%. Speed wise, you see down here 21 kilometers an hour out of 30, which is the current speed limit. Now when we've got a speed limit coming in, we'll see those pop up on the right hand side over there as well. Again, that can be hidden with F1. on the left we've got our schedule. So current time is 11:31 and the date is set to the 5th of June 2021. We are train 414018. That's the train number, like a head code, I guess. And we're going from Kadowich, Muchowicz, Stashitz to Sosnowicz, Dandauka, I guess. And then you can see your schedule as you're supposed to run, and if you're running late, which we will be doing, it'll tell us how late we're running by and stuff like that. And just need to apply a bit more power here. We've got a red signal in just under a kilometre. Bottom left you've got your radio detail, so that's obviously something to pay attention to. You get all your radio instructions. If you come to a red signal you can radio through, stuff like that. Pretty similar to how you can on TS when you press tab and stuff like that. You've got your radio console over here. Now it doesn't always tell you when to press the radio, I found, but you can sort of assume, or I've been assuming, when to press it. Now we're coming over the summit of that gradient there, so you can see already how the train's sort of picking up. Sounds wise, I do like the joint sounds, I think they're okay. So yeah, you get the track joint sounds. Now when you go on continuously welded rail, obviously you don't get the joint sound. So that's good how it simulates what sort of track you're on. You know, so that sounds very basic, but it will be very easy not to simulate that if it was a bad simulator. So it proves that the understanding of everything is there. And again with the HUD, you can see I'm just knocking bits off here, F3 and F4. So if you want nothing on your left hand side of the screen, you can press F3 and F4, and you'll have a nice clear screen. So it is possible to run HUDless if you want. You can turn the rest of it off with F1 and very much be running basic as you would in real life. So now we're coming up to a signal. So what I need to do is I need to get the brakes on. So I need to press the 3 key for that on the numpad. So the brakes are controlled on the 3 and the 9 key, which sounds weird to start with, but once you get used to it, I assure you it's not that hard. I was making good chunks of brake application. Now I'm holding 9 to get those off because I put them on too much. But you get the idea. I wanted to make sure I stopped early anyway. So we can leave those in that position because they'll gradually release. Because they're in the driving position, they'll gradually release. You can hear them releasing. Next up, we need to contact the signal because we have a red signal. So to do that, we go down here to the radio. Press the 1 key.
41 4018 to Station of Gałęźny, requesting entry.
Hello, you will enter on substitute signal between 10 miles north. Will be operating on the left track, KMB.
Thank you. I will proceed upon substitute signal to KMB on the left track.
Press on your chair or use the E key to get up. Set the headlight switch to the 5th position, indicating signal PC2. The switch is located on the rear wall of the cabin. We use this setting of the headlights during every drive on the left track.
So essentially, if you're running online, you put the lights into what is called setting 5. So basically, we get the left-hand side headlight on. Is what that's just said. So we've got the signal. You can see we've got the substitute signal now. That is that white flashing light. So that's giving us the authority to proceed past this point. So we've got the brakes there off. We can now apply our power. I've lowered the resolution of the textures again just to try and make sure that FPS stays, sort of reasonable. I know some other developers of video guys have not actually done videos because the game was really struggling when Streamlabs was running. I'm sort of trying to look past that because I know what it looks like without Streamlabs. It looks better than this, but it's hard to do a video when it looks good but the FPS is like 4. So I think so far my takeaway from this is that as long as the performance improvements are made, there is actually a really good base simulator under here. So you've got the LZB there, which we've just had to cancel. Now, we're now told we're 6 minutes late because we've just passed that signal there. That was one of the timing points. We were due there at 11:30, we passed at 11:36. So we're coming up to a series of junctions here. Oh, we'll join onto another line. And we sort of drop down again, down a gradient. So we've got another signal box on the left hand side. That one does not have any sort of controls or anything in there by the looks of it. Point work and everything looks pretty nice, and I'm trying to just pause it there so you can see it. I don't know what the button is to do like a free-roam camera, but you can sort of see the detail down there. It looks pretty decent, so it's reasonably impressive to see that. Very nice, and I'm loving the sort of overgrown feel of this. It's capturing the sort of industrial feeling, which is what we're looking for, so that's good. So we're getting a radio call there. I'm going to press 1.
41, 4018, answering. Understood. To Stawiska on left hand track.
So we've just been told there we're going to go on the left-hand track to Stavitska. You can already see we've got a yellow signal in 735 metres, which is a 40 kilometre an hour limit on that, I believe. So I'm going to just let the train's currently going on like 50 kilometres an hour, but we've got a 30 kilometres an hour. We've got a 40 kilometre speed limit coming up, which is then succeeded by 50 kilometre an hour. But we've also got a warning on the right here for 20 kilometre an hour, I believe that is. And that is because we've got the crossover at this junction coming up in about 500 metres. So you can see the line joining on the left there. We come up to a junction in a second where we get to join onto another line, and we go on the left hand track then to Stavitska. I love saying Polish names, I don't know why, I just love saying them. So as you can see, I've had no power on there. Gravity has taken the train down the hill. We've got a lot of coal, we've got 2,000 tonnes of coal, and it's just pushed us down that gradient. And there you can see we've got the 20 kilometre an hour speed limit in 400 metres, so we're going to have to get the brakes in a second. Going past all sorts of signals. Now, to be honest, I don't quite know what all these mean yet. There's no, as far as I can see, there's no real manual that seems to tell you exactly what the signals mean yet. Although I may have missed it, in which case that's just bad mark. So again, I've managed to completely stop the train whilst trying to get the brakes off, which isn't great. The braking does take some time to get used to because it's a bit different to what we're used to. You're sort of clicking to move between the notches rather than holding and moving through them. You sort of click to move onto each notch, so it's a little bit different to what we're used to with TS, obviously. So we're coming up to a good series of junctions here, which I'm going to have a little look at, probably from the back window, from the back coupling. That's a view I haven't seen before. I love how you got the detail of the coal in the wagons and stuff like that. I'm not sure if they actually vary from wagon to wagon. Yeah, they do. They vary from some of the wagons to different loadings and stuff, so that's quite cool. And obviously you do have super elevation and everything. That's fully simulated. You could see it just then. We'll have a look later on at that, but it's fully simulated. So I'll just put us in this back coupling hook here, because I want to see the track as we come through this junction here. It's the first sort of complicated bit of track that we've seen. So it'll be interesting to see how it's looking. But the track giant sounds and everything, they do go in line was, as you can see, the track joint just went over there. And the one thing I loved earlier is you could actually hear the preceding wagon go over the joint before you hear us go over the joint. I'll turn the game sound up so you can really hear that, and I'll shut up for a minute. So as you can see, there was some really nice detail back there in those points. I was quite happy with that. And you can see the distinction between the rusty and the obviously more used tracks. So there's certainly the details there, and that's what's good to see. I do wonder if maybe the suspension is a little bit bouncy, because you can sort of see us bouncing on these track joints, especially in the back. It's quite pronounced. Whether that's realistic or not, I'm not 100% sure. Although it's better to have some bounce than no bounce, I guess, because in reality they do move a bit when you go over track joints. So I think in that situation I would rather have it than not, but it seems a little bit extreme. So on to our first bit of proper railway now. Now, the one thing I think that is a little bit of a downside to the simulator is that the buildings and stuff that you see, they look rather low detail. You're not seeing any sort of high detail looks to them. A lot of them, what I can see, they seem very basic in their appearance. No guttering or anything like that. No fancy sort of look to them. They're all sort of minimal. Not that that's necessarily a game breaker for me. It's not. It's something I can pretty much put up with, especially if it means the simulation is better. But it is something that I've noticed, is that it doesn't look quite as nice as TSW in that respect. So that will probably be one of my biggest negatives at the moment, is that bits away from medial and extra track side, so not non-railway buildings, they do look a little bit less than sort of thing. And the other thing, obviously, you can see the trees and everything rendering in the distance, and the bridges. Now, that again can be changed in the graphical settings. So if I go into the graphical settings, I can quite easily change all that, no problem. I can make it render a lot further away, but I think a lot of people are going to be struggling to actually get it to do that and still maintain a reasonable FPS. So I think that's certainly something to be noting. Meanwhile, I'm once again going to be coming to a stop here. So this is the problem with the braking, is that you click free a couple of times, nothing seems to happen, and you press it again, and then suddenly you get 50% braking, and your train just stops on a dime. So that is the biggest driving problem, is that the brakes obviously are doing that. One thing I do like is how the trees and everything obviously move around with the wind. It's quite nice. Now I've got this problem where I'm getting seen like shadows and stuff appearing behind them, but the actual sort of idea behind it's cool. So just getting the power reapplied. So we've got a 20km speed limit in 506 metres. Well, I mean, in summary of what we've done so far, I believe there's enough here to say that there's something in the simulator for most people. Big thing for UK guys, obviously, like myself and like I'm sure many of you guys viewing, is certainly at the start we're not going to have any UK content. Whether any UK developers pick this software up and make anything is another matter entirely, or whether the developers themselves make something. I think that'll be the extent of whether it grows or not in the UK to any extent, because a lot of British users don't necessarily want to use Continental stock. Now, I've never really done much with the Continental trains in real life, but you know, so far I'm really enjoying this as a simulator and everything, and especially if the multiplayer and the dispatcher side of things comes on. I can see me spending a lot of time on this, but even though I'm not a massive like fan of Continental stock and stuff, I'm finding so far, even after on this my second drive at this and with the graphics turned down and everything, that it's far more immersive than I ever think TSW was at the start. And again, that's what I'm comparing it to. I'm comparing it to, well, what did TSW feel like when I first started? And I remember with TSW CSX, sure, for the first hour or so I was sat there thinking, wow, this is amazing, because you get the graphics and everything. But then you went into it for a few hours and it was like, okay, now what? And I guess with TSW we had that thing of, oh well, we're going to get multiplayer. Oh well, we're going to get this. Oh well, we're going to get that. And everyone was sort of like just waiting for the best bits to come. Like, oh, well, once we get multiplayer, it'll be fantastic. Once we get the editor, it'll be fantastic. Well, with this, obviously, you've kind of already got the multiplayer in the menu there and the dispatcher. So if they don't now appear, then that'd be a bit stupid considering they're already in the menu. That's kind of really is dropping things to people that, you know, I'm expecting that now. I've seen it in the menu. And I'm expecting it released, to be honest. But obviously, unlike TSW, they haven't simply just said, you know, made these statements and then never been able to follow them up. Hopefully we can see these guys follow up on what's looking like a decent piece of software. Because I think that's what turned a lot of people off of TSW, is saying, oh well, there's an editor coming, and then there's no editor actually come yet for public users. And stuff like that. Had that not have happened with TSW, maybe in a different situation with some people in the community, but so far this is, from an immersion point of view, it's probably in front of TSW for me. On a performance standpoint, it's behind TSW. It seems to really be eating performance, and again, it is a demo. Remember that it's the prologue, it is not the final game. So we don't know how the final software is going to go. But if there's one thing that I would be, you know, wanting to see improvement on before release, it would be the performance. In a pretty big way, I think. Because at the moment it's sort of struggling to get 25 FPS out of it. And it doesn't look amazing, even like this. Obviously it did look a bit better for me when I was not running the Streamlabs software, but it is what it is. Again, you got the buildings over there that aren't massively detailed, and it is a little bit of an off-put of that. They look okay, but there's certainly nothing special about them. I think that is another downer, is that stuff like that obviously looks a bit meh. And you do have along here that problem that I was talking about with the ballast, how it's on such a steep sort of incline. It's sort of like the track's just built on top of the earth rather than being a part of the earth, if that makes sense. One thing that is nice is I saw a car moving then. TSW obviously feels like a complete ghost town. Well, this, it doesn't quite feel like that. So over here on the left we got some more industrial stuff. We've got a little shed there, and it looks like we've got another coal mine coming up. can see the winding gear, actually the pit headgear there, so that's quite cool to see. Probably best viewed from the cab. Again, I've got the render distance turned down, so I'm not going to see that much, but I like the detail with the fencing and everything. And that's what I mean with the detail, is that I'm on about the buildings outside of the track, but if you look at the buildings within the railway boundary, they really are nicely detailed, and if that helps performance quite a bit, then I'm all for that. I can look past the other things. But yeah, the headgear and everything looks cool up there. And it looks nice, just generally speaking, looks decent. Another signal box coming up, we've got some more sidings here. And before we get onto this 20 kilometre bits, the 20 kilometre section will carry on quite a bit longer yet. Another 20 minutes or so, and I don't necessarily want the video to go for another 20 minutes. We're already at nearly an hour, and I really don't want to take the video over an hour, because I feel like this is giving you a good sort of look at the software. We're coming through a little town here, so we'll get through this town. I'll probably turn it off, but it does, within the railway boundary, it does feel really good. But stuff like that, for instance, like those buildings right next to the track with no guttering, no windows, you know, no 3D details, they just look a bit weird. And same for any of these buildings near the track. It all just looks a little bit, doesn't look 2021ish, put it that way. But again, it depends what these guys are going for. If these guys are going for a really good simulation of stuff on the track, and then it doesn't matter about anything outside, so long as it reflects something of reality, then I guess that's okay, if that's what they're going for. And I suppose we've got to remember that if we're going for a 316 kilometre route, a 319 kilometre route I think it was, that probably going to see that kind of thing. It's a bit like the Western Main Lines thing. The longer your route, the less detailed it's going to be. I'd like to say I'm wrong with that, but let's see. One thing I did love when I played this before was that graveyard. Now that is high detail. So that was really nice to see. Now I know I am speeding, by the way, here. That's intentional, because I just want to... Do you think I've gone to sleep? I guess he's going to tell me to change the headlights over here, but I need to try and get this train slowed down. Otherwise we're going to have a major incident. So he's going to tell me to turn the headlights and stuff. We've still got another 20 minutes of this to go, and I don't want to carry on right now because I need to make sure that I just keep this video sort of sensibly.
Move from a left track to the right track, so we need to turn the headlight program back to 0 position, what indicates the UIC train head mark.
Let's have a little look outside before we finish this. If I can. How do I get outside? There we go. So I've exited out the door there. So let's just take a little look around whilst we're here and see what we've got before I do end this video. I think detail-wise, I've got the textures turned down, as I said. But detail-wise, I think it's good. Let's have a look at this point work over here before we do turn it off. So obviously you've got the bits where the trains don't run, they are rusty and stuff like that. It's quite nice. Let's turn the texture settings back to full just for this bit. Full resolution textures. As you can see, you got a lot of graphical things you can change there. Render distances and stuff like that. That's the key thing, is because I've got them turned down. I'm kind of playing it how I think most people are probably going to end up playing this, because I'm not on a high-end rig, but I'm on a reasonable rig. Let's turn all these up though and see how we're looking. As you can see, if you do play this on full settings, it does look, you know, reasonably good. Actually looks very nice. We've had them turned down a fair bit there. But the detail and everything, you know, the OHLE and stuff like that. Really, really nice 3D detail up there. I've no idea on the accuracy of it. It looks right to me, but I've no idea on the accuracy in all honesty. No, not sure how far you can get from the track. Should we go for a walk in the trees? Do they have bears around here? I'm not getting eaten by any bears. Wonder how far we can get. Just tell me I'm too far from the vehicle. It's probably going to kick me out of the game. Let's go back over here then. So I'm leaving the playable area. But yeah, look at the catenary from up here. Just looking at the little cogs and everything, the detail, it just looks really nice, that. And the one thing I'm really hoping we get with this is the multiplayer, because I can just imagine being able to stand at the side of the track, for instance, and see your mates coming past. I think that'll be really cool, and it'll be a bit of a game changer, to be honest, when it comes to train simulation, because we never really had that before. We've had it in trains, but trains, does it really count as a terrain simulator at times? I'm not sure it does. But yeah, I'm really loving the... oh. Oops. Okay. I guess that's because I left the brakes on. I have no control over that. But that's proves my point about the gradients and stuff, how it understands gradients. You can see it's on a downhill, so it's accelerating. So until it kicks us out, let's just have a little look at some of these details. Again, I love how they got the plates underneath and stuff. Very nice. And sort of the unkempt feel of it, like this bit where they've just got some sleepers chucked across the track and stuff like that. I wonder if we can get back to that graveyard. How far back was that? No, I mean quite a way. But the trees and everything, I think they're good. They look decent. Purely from a point of view of just the whole scenic side of it, I think there's definitely potential for this software to be really good. Let's hope in a couple of years we're talking about something that is competing with TSW, and that'd be nice. And it's obviously something that's going to need other developers to pick up on, though, I think, rather than just the sole developer. Because of the fact that it's going to Polish to start with. Is that how it's going to stay? Who knows? But at least they've picked an interesting railway, because the Polish railways are pretty interesting. It's nice to see that. There is other stock obviously going to come with the game. You've got there's an EMU that you can drive in the other tutorials. Now, how far down here can I get? It's forced me back into the train, so we can't get any further. I'll bring the train to a halt. I'm going to end the video here. So yeah, keep an eye on this on Steam, guys. Add it to your wish list. It's well worth, I reckon, investing in looking at this at the moment. But this demo obviously is free. Get the demo, give it a try, see if it works on your system, see what you think. Ultimately, that's the way to tell with this software, is to see what you think of it. I'm quite impressed with it. I think it's immersive and it seems to be on the right lines. I think graphically there's work to do, there's some improvement that can be made. But overall, do I think it's got potential? Certainly the most potential we've seen from anything outside of train sim, dovetail games for the last few years. It's a case of the performance needs to be a bit better, I think. Quite a lot of improvement there. And you've got to be able to overlook such as those low detail buildings that we saw. Because if you can't overlook those, then you're not going to get very far, I don't think. But from the point of view of simulation and general feel, I think it feels pretty good. I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Cheers very much as always for watching. Thanks. See you later. Bye.